There is a point where you gotta stop calling a game easy. Too easy. This could be any video game. I'm using Monster Hunter as an example, but this could apply to any game under the sun. And just accept the fact that you are simply good at the game. You are so good, it's easy, but it's not objectively easy. And I feel like this happens a lot with Monster Hunter in particular. The game is compared to Dark Souls a lot. You know, they're actiony, rolly, 3D, combat heavy, skill heavy games. You know, generally the same genre, the same idea, right? They just have a bit different gameplay. I think the gameplay is like starkly different. They are very different games, but the core mechanics, the core feel of an action RPG is preserved. And Monster Hunter games, as a whole, I feel get called too easy too often. Now, definitely, for sure, there are some Monster Hunter games that are easier and harder than others. Not all games are created equal. I personally believe that World is the easiest game, and Monster Hunter 1, the first game, is the hardest game. But I have heard on the grapevine in particular that Sunbreak is too easy to some people, and I get that. Like, there's going to be varying skill levels. I made a whole video talking about comparing Rise to Sunbreak, how much the expansion changed the base game, and how it just made it a better overall game. And one of those aspects I talked about was the difficulty, and I'm going to strictly, exclusively focus on the difficulty in this video. If you think Sunbreak is too easy, you should be proud of yourself. Seriously, pat yourself on the back, because you have done a damn fine job as a hunter and somebody who just plays video games in general. Sunbreak is not too easy. Maybe in the story, sure, I get it, but once you get into that afflicted endgame, the anomaly grind, the investigations, the risens, all of that stuff, you get to the endgame loop where you will be spending most of your time as a player and hunting the most monsters in either an afflicted or risen state, because that's where the monsters are the strongest. And don't even get me started on special investigations, which are a whole different breed entirely. If you find these monsters too easy, good job. You are awesome at video games and you are awesome at Monster Hunter. And I'm sad that you find the game too easy, but you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud because you have the skill to say it's too easy. You can make the claim because you got that good. Congratulations. You did great, champ. As a whole, Sunbreak's endgame, Afflicted Endgame, is one of the hardest endgames we've had. Do you actually know what an afflicted monster is? Or risen? You know, I can apply this to both. The logic is interchangeable. Do you know what these monsters are, fundamentally? These monsters have a lot of health. And I understand just making a monster tanky isn't the only aspect of difficulty. I'm just going to start with it, because I do think overall it's the least important, but I do think it still matters. By making a monster really tanky, part of that skill as a player, what you need to do is find out how to optimize your damage. Learn the monster's openings, get in as much DPS as you can, and minimize the amount of time you are hunting said monster. You gotta do a lot of damage, and to do that, you have to weave your attacks in and out of the monster's moveset. You gotta work around them. That's part of the difficulty. So even though health isn't everything, I do still think it matters. It's a core, key, important point. The other aspect of these monsters, they are very fast. They are incredibly fast. You have to react quickly to them, and they do a lot of damage. So they have a lot of health, so you gotta, optimize your damage to kill them quickly, or capture, whatever you want to do. Defeat them, right? They do a lot of damage, so how do I word this? If you make a mistake, you're going to lose a lot of your health. You're going to get punished pretty hard, and then you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to think to yourself, okay, do I stay down and keep my invincibility frames, or do I wirefall and risk getting combo attacked and possibly carded for this? Sunbreak monsters, unlike base rise, actually do work to punish wirefalling with their speed and combos. That is part of the difficulty. And to top it all off, a lot of these monsters have a lot of AoE. So their attacks cover a wide area. They're spread out a lot, so it's almost like you're playing bullet hell. Like, you can think of Sunbreak as a bullet hell monster game, which, I mean, you can agree or disagree whether or not you like that, but it is ultimately difficulty. So if these tanky, fast, hard-hitting, comboing monsters are too easy, I don't even know what you expect at this point. Like, what more do you want? Like, this is already one of the hardest monster games. I don't even think it's the hardest. I think Sunbreak is the fourth hardest monster game, personally. I think 4U is harder. I think GU is harder. I think Monster 1 is harder. I only think Sunbreak is fourth hardest. It's definitely not the hardest game, for sure. But the difficulty is great. It's for sure the hardest part of the 5th generation of Monster Hunter before, Wilds, of course. So, to those of you who find Sunbreak too easy, the Afflicteds aren't hard, Prisons are hard, special investigations mean nothing to you, etc., you're just that much of a Giga Chad, I ask you, personally, like, I just why? I want to know why you find it too easy. What about it is too easy for you? Because this doesn't seem fair. This doesn't seem reasonable at this point. We've reached a point where Capcom understood the complaints about Base Rise being too easy. They clearly wanted to make Sunbreak a lot harder. It's like, alright, we'll make it more difficult. Make the monsters faster, tankier, combo heavy, hard hitting, etc. All of the fundamentals of difficulty. Their movesets are perfectly great. I wouldn't change a single thing about these monsters' movesets. I think they have great movesets. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot to memorize. It's great. So what more could you want? I don't really understand how you can make Sunbreak reasonably harder without just making every single attack a one-shot AoE. And that in and of itself isn't fun. Nobody wants to play a one-shot AoE simulator. Sunbreak already kind of, does a little tightrope walk near that precipice. It doesn't quite get that extreme, even with the special investigations, but I don't get it. I'm trying to understand why those who think Sunbreak find it too easy feel that way, because I just don't think it's reasonable. And the thing is, I'm not even, I don't feel too much pressure when I play Sunbreak. I think the game's very difficult, but I'm not calling the game too easy. I'm good at Sunbreak. I can play it well. I can play it effectively. I don't really cart or fail quests that often. So you think, oh, well, clearly you find the game easy too. I don't, though. I'm not calling the game too easy, because I do feel enough pressure. I feel like the gameplay takes considerable effort, and I recognize I'm just good at the game. That's why I'm not struggling that much, but I appreciate and respect the difficulty it gives me. I just know that I have refined my technique to get that good. I'm reasonable in that sense. You can even see in the gameplay right here, you were watching in the background, I'm not, really struggling with this monster. I'm not having a terribly difficult time. I'm doing just fine, but I'm not calling it too easy. I feel just alright about it. It's like, alright, there's some back and forth. It's taking some effort. I'm being careful, but I'm not, overwhelmed. I just know what the game is presenting me, and I know what I am bringing to the table as a player, as a hunter. My only theory as to why somebody might call Sunbreak in the Afflicted Risen Endgame too easy, it's not the monster's fault. I guess it's just a symptom of being a mobile Gen 5 hunter, where we move fast, we're snappy, we're reactive. It plays like Hollow Knight in that regard, and we can just do what we need to do without being held back by any old gen jank. But if older monster games are only more difficult because they're janky, we're sacrificing fun and quality for a more difficult game, which I can understand why some people want that, but I would much rather have the more fluid, mobile, snappy, reactive controls of 5th and 6th gen than go back to, I don't know, Gen 2, where I've never personally played Freedom Unite, but I imagine Freedom Unite is probably a pretty hard game. I imagine it's one of the hardest games in the series, but why is it hard? It's hard because you are slow and clunky. And look, I've played Monster Hunter 1. I know what slow, clunky Monster Hunter is like. I've been there. I've done it. I get it. I'm not blind to the concept. I'm not a noob to the concept. But it just feels better to play modern Monster Hunter. I'm having more fun with the game. So if that's the price we gotta pay, a little less difficulty for a overall more fun, more quality experience, that's fine. That's hit we can take because we can still have a hard Monster Hunter game. We can still have difficulty in 5th gen because I believe Capcom knows how to make modern Monster Hunter hard. I don't believe it has to be too easy. I don't believe modern Monster Hunter is a curse, that it's doomed to be too easy. No, clearly it isn't. We've had stuff like Extreme Behemoth, Ancient Leshen, Fatalis, Alatrion. All these monsters are difficult, but they are 5th gen. It doesn't need to be a stereotype. There is a point, as I said at the start of this video, you gotta stop calling the game easy and accept the fact that these games are hard. Most of them are difficult, we are just good at them. It's not really fair to make the too easy to complaint all the time. This happens with too many Monster Hunter games. You could probably go back and play some of the older games and you would maybe find them too easy. Like, I remember I was playing 3 Ultimate as a teenager, and that's, a 3rd gen old game. And there was a part of me that felt, before I had this realization all these years later, that, this feels pretty easy. I kind of expected more difficulty out of Monster. That wasn't the case, though. The games are hard. I just got good at them. You got good at them. We got good at them. So if you're not feeling the pressure anymore, if you're not feeling like it's satisfying, you've probably just played it too much. And I'm sorry you feel that way. But there's a point where you just gotta stop. You gotta draw the line and understand that the games are hard. Most of them are hard. You're just too good. And you know what? That is maybe a good thing. It means that you have gotten skilled enough to make that claim. So yeah, before I go in circles, because I already feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, I will end the video here. And, I could make another video comparing Dark Souls to Monster Hunter and the nuances of their difficulty. I could do that. But, let me know what you think in the comments. I want to talk about Monster Hunter difficulty and Sunbreak. Oh, one more thing. Before I end the video, I do have one more thing I want to say. The berserk skill in Sunbreak. A lot of people say, oh, this skill just makes you immortal, like you can't die with this. It doesn't work like that. Berserk is not an automatic invincibility skill. I forgot exactly how it works because, I haven't seen the skill description in a while, but I do, vaguely remember how it works. When it puts you to red health and you have technically 1 HP, and as long as your health is red, you can't faint, right? Well, just think, every time you get hit, that red health depletes quicker and quicker, and it's not something you can reasonably maintain for that long. So it's not a catch-all invincibility skill because it has a limit. You're eventually going to have to break that berserk. You're going to have to break that red health and return to normal gameplay. So berserk isn't a good argument to say that Sunbreak is too easy. The skill is not that simple. If it was, sure, the game would be too easy, but that's clearly not the case. Okay, for real, that's the end of the video. I'll see you next time.